You're in there, aren't you? Open up. Give me a break. I was just enjoying my new place. Open the door. I didn't want to be a nuisance to the neighbors, so I reluctantly opened the front door. You're infertile and you're still leaving the house. I don't acknowledge you as a daughter-in-law. My husband, his mistress, and my mother-in-law were all standing there. Huh? For the sake of the new wife and the grandchild that's on the way, we'll take this house as compensation. Please leave. Yeah, get out already. That's right, infertile woman, thanks for everything. Oh, they really say whatever they want, don't they? They don't even realize they're mistaken. My name is Michelle. I'm a 43-year-old office worker. My husband, Stephen, is a year younger than me. We don't have children. We thought it would happen naturally, but we weren't blessed. After many discussions, we chose to live just the two of us. I don't regret it. The apartment we've lived in since we got married is small and old, but it's not inconvenient. Saving money for our own home and living modestly is enjoyable. Recently at work, I was assigned to the planning department, which I had always hoped for. The hard work I put in at the sales department paid off. I got a raise and became someone who's relied upon in the company. It's not an exaggeration to say that my job is my passion, especially since I have no children. But it seems my husband feels differently. Huh? You quit your job again? Yeah. What, you didn't discuss it with me? I was so shocked I couldn't speak. My boss was being annoying because I refused a transfer. So you quit because of that? Technically, yes, but I'm the victim here. It's wrongful termination. I sighed. Then you should sue and claim compensation. Nah, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I know the truth. He wasn't wrongfully terminated. This is just one of my husband's bad habits. He can't stick to a job. It's not that he's unserious, but he just suddenly gets fed up and quits. It's become normal for him to change jobs every 2 or 3 years, but each time, it disrupts our budget and lifestyle, which is exhausting. As his partner, I can't just tell him to endure a job he hates. But we're both in our 40s now. In moments like this, I think it's good we don't have kids. I can be the one to support us. And I hope he would do the same for me if something happened. I knew it, but his job search wasn't going well, and time was just passing by. The timing was bad, and surely age and his career history were issues. He was getting frustrated. He would just sit at home all day, not doing any housework, constantly sighing. If he has time, he could at least tidy up the mess he made in the room. I have more right to be frustrated than you. Maybe I should give him a piece of my mind. In times like this, it's tough when the house is small, there's no escape. Let's calm down. Fighting won't do us any good. I held back my urge to blame him and just kept an eye on him. Finally, he got a job as a contract worker at a factory. It wasn't what he hoped for, but it's better than being unemployed. Let's start trying again, bit by bit. Together, we'll surely be okay. Then one day, I got a call from my mother-in-law. Hello? Michelle? What's the matter, Mom? I heard you've been cold to Stephen. Huh? I let out a surprised exclamation. I couldn't guess what she was talking about. You're being harsh on Stephen, who's hurt from being wrongfully terminated, aren't you? Hold on. I don't recall doing anything like that. What do you mean? That's what I want to know. Pushing you to work or to clean up, you've been harsh, haven't you? Why would it come to that? Indeed, I did say things like hope you find a job soon and please pick up the stuff you left out, indirectly. But it was never in a commanding tone. This is also one of my husband's bad habits. Whenever something happens, he immediately runs to his mother. And he even exaggerates the story. I think it's bad that his mother takes it all at face value, but I wonder when he'll ever grow up. That's too much. Stephen wouldn't blame you, would he? Well, there's no reason for him to. What are you saying, Michelle? You deserve to be blamed. It's your fault we don't have children. Huh? Isn't there something more important than work? Regret won't bring anything back. Why is the lack of children being blamed on me? It seems my husband is making up some very convenient stories. Even though we decided together, I feel betrayed. He may want to save face, but getting his mother on his side to treat me like the villain is like a child's spite. We're a couple who will spend a lot more time together, so we shouldn't lose trust. With that in mind, I decided to talk to him that night. Please don't exaggerate things to your mother. If you have complaints, I want you to tell me directly, for the sake of our future. Let's both do that, okay? My husband, clearly annoyed, started fiddling with his smartphone in the middle of our conversation. Hey, listen to me. Quiet, I'm getting work calls. Saying that, he got up from his seat. He didn't return to our conversation and just went straight to the bedroom. Was he in a bad mood or just tired from working at the factory? It can't be helped. We'll talk another time. But the next day, he refused to talk, saying he was tired and sleepy. The following day, he came home in the morning from a company welcome party. He spent the whole holiday sleeping off a hangover. After that, he was out late every night due to overtime and dinner with colleagues. Clearly avoiding me. Trying to let it all fade away, but that won't solve the problem. I hate being unfairly blamed by his mother. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I wait for my husband's return. It's a problem that shouldn't be postponed just because it's troublesome. Around the time the date changes, my husband comes home in a great mood, humming a tune. Welcome back.
Whoa! You scared me!
What's going on? Surprised, huh? Were you awake? I was waiting for Steven. Huh? My husband looked annoyed. Why are you avoiding this? Stop nagging me. You've been acting strange lately.
You're so persistent. If you have something to say, just leave a note.
A note? Was the deal to settle things without talking? Yeah. Can't believe you remember such old stuff, you really are persistent. I was stunned. Did he forget our marriage vows? I said a couple should understand each other, and he agreed with me.
I used to like you're diligent, but now it's inflexible and burdensome.
That's harsh. If you don't want to lose me, you better change your attitude. There are other women out there. What do you mean? Exactly what I said. Are you cheating? I had suspicions about his recent behavior.
You're kidding, right? What have I done? I told you, you're being too clingy. Do you want a divorce?
Don't say that. My husband clicked his tongue. He pulled a paper out of his bag and shoved it at me roughly. It was a completed divorce form. Why do you have this? I was asked to write it. By whom? You know who. No, I don't understand. There's another woman who wants me to file it. I was at a loss for words. Had my husband written the divorce form at his mistress's request?
Now that you understand, don't get cocky. You're nothing without me, so know your place.
I gripped the divorce form with trembling hands. I could hear my heartbeat. What time do you think it is? I'm going to sleep. You go somewhere and cool off. My husband disappeared into the bedroom. I stared at my husband's name written on the divorce papers. What was he feeling when he wrote this? Was he late today because he was meeting his mistress? I, who had supported him in his new job, must have looked like such a foolish wife. I got confusing, and I felt dizzy. I couldn't think of anything. Just as he said, I needed to cool off. I silently grabbed my valuables and essentials and left the house without a word. 1 month later. I hadn't been home since then. I tried to contact my husband a few times, but there was no reply. This room is quiet and comfortable. It feels peaceful. The sunlight pours through the windows, brightly illuminating the still empty living room. The ventilation is good too. When the cold air touches my cheek, I can't help but take a deep breath, and the scent of wood seeps in. Then, Michelle, I know you're in there. Open up. An annoying voice called out, and I frowned. This piercing voice was my mother-in-law's. I really wished she would give me a break. I was enjoying a peaceful moment.
Michelle!
I didn't want to cause a disturbance to the neighbors, so I reluctantly opened the front door. With a clearly annoyed expression.
I knew you were here. It's been a while.
My mother-in-law said happily. She tried to barge in, so I pushed her back. Wait a minute, please. What's wrong? What happened? Hey, can you see my face? I'm rejecting you, okay? Well, this place isn't bad at all. Behind her, for some reason, my husband was there. And who was that young woman standing next to him? It smells like a new house, nice. It's nice, isn't it? All three of them naturally tried to enter the house. Their audacity knew no bounds.
Wait a minute. How did you find out where I am?
What do you mean how? First, answer my question. Why do you always treat Steven so badly? Huh? Leaving everything behind and running away from home, that's the worst a wife could be. Just because you don't like Dorothy here. Dorothy? Oh, this young woman. I see, she's approved by my mother-in-law. Wait a minute? Did I run away from home? I thought it was more like my husband telling me where to go, like he was kicking me out. My husband stood provocatively close to the young woman, looking at me challengingly. The number of rooms is just right, and the interior design is decent. I guess I can forgive you for buying a new house on your own. Huh? But living together is out of the question. After all, your infertility makes for a bad image. Excuse me, what are you talking about?
You should be grateful that I stayed with you this long.
Huh? I was bewildered and tilted my head in confusion. Steven, I am tired and wants to sit down. That's right, sorry Dorothy. Michelle, let Dorothy sit inside the house. No way.
Huh? Dorothy is pregnant with Steven's child.
Pregnant? That was news to me. Yet, surprisingly, I wasn't much shaken. Why is that? Maybe it's because the shock of continuous events has made reality unbelievable. Or perhaps I just don't feel anything anymore. Pregnant women should be respected, right? I guess you wouldn't understand that, Michelle. Oh, is that so?
Don't you get it? I acknowledge Dorothy as the wife, not you, Michelle. We'll take this house as compensation, so get out.
Yeah, get out already. That's right, thanks for nothing, Baron Lady. How could they say such things? Unaware of their own misunderstandings. I can't just give you this house as compensation. Even if you tell me to leave, this house is in my name. Huh? We're already divorced, you know? What? My husband and mother-in-law were shocked. Is it really such a surprise? Weren't you the ones who handed me the filled-out divorce papers? Michelle, what do you mean? Weren't you planning to start a new life with us?
I had no such intention.
The mother-in-law panicked and my husband was furious. What are you talking about?
I bought this house with my own money.
Huh? Incredible. They probably haven't read a single one of the emails I sent. You really didn't know anything, did you? The night my husband handed me the divorce papers. All the endurance I had maintained as a wife suddenly vanished, filled with a sense of liberation. I was so happy that I couldn't think of anything else. Wait, does this mean my free life is about to begin? When I realized this, I got so excited I felt dizzy. While feeling thrilled, I signed the wife section of the divorce papers and submitted them to the public office first thing the next morning. I divided our savings equally and transferred half to my husband's account. Considering what I had earned, I believe most of the savings were rightfully mine, but I wanted to avoid any disputes. I suggest we communicate through lawyers from now on, I informed him via email. With half of the savings we split and the bonus I received afterward, I made a down payment on a new house. The rest was covered by a loan. A loan? How can a housewife possibly get a loan? My husband said condescendingly. Well, if you kept changing jobs, of course, you wouldn't be able to get a loan. Huh? You wouldn't know since you don't manage the finances, but my salary is twice what you make. His face turned red with rage, possibly wounded in his pride. Even Dorothy seemed taken aback by this. Stephen, this isn't what you told me. You said we'd live in a new luxury home, right? Oh, calm down, Dorothy. My husband was pitifully flustered. Well, he's my ex-husband now. I had been the one supporting our finances all along. It's ridiculous to think I would live with his new wife and mother-in-law.
Michelle!
My mother-in-law seemed ready to explode with anger.
This is fraud. Mom, who wrote the divorce papers first? And who encouraged him to write them? It was that lady over there, your future daughter-in-law, who will support you. And congratulations on the upcoming grandchild. No, we'll take the house as well.
My mother-in-law was breathing heavily in arrogance. She is incredibly arrogant. That's not possible. It's such a big house, it's a waste for just you, Michelle, isn't it? I plan to live here with my parents eventually. What? What is this daughter-in-law talking about? No, I'm no longer your daughter-in-law, we have no relation. And who knows, maybe I'll have another wonderful encounter. Of course, I wouldn't say that out loud. What are we going to do? I was all set to live in this house. The mother-in-law slumped her shoulders. What happened to the apartment you were living in, Mom? I sold that old place. You sold it? Yes, when I happened to see you moving appliances into this new house, I immediately contacted Stephen and he invited me to live with you all. So that was the situation. That means the only thing left is the small, old house I used to live in. Not that I feel sympathy for them. Unlike you, Michelle, who is a tough career woman, we now have a young and docile daughter-in-law and a grandchild on the way, and we thought we'd be secure with a new house in the future. I wish she'd stop speaking ill of people while looking so pitiful. Who's tough? I had to be strong because my husband was so pathetic. Oh, what a letdown. But I'll go home and tell everything to Daddy. Dorothy seemed to have given up. Huh? Wait, that's too bad. If Daddy gets angry, it's going to be a big problem. You better take responsibility. Dorothy, please, anything but that. As for why my husband got such a young girl pregnant, it turned out she was an office assistant at his company and things just went too far after a drinking party, and it happened in one time. He thought she was just an employee, but she turned out to be the daughter of the factory manager. Raised in a girls' school, this lady, despite her flashy looks, had zero experience with men. It turns out my husband was her first, and she didn't know he was married. Believing the classic cheater's line, "My wife and I have grown apart, we'll be divorcing soon," she went out of her way to prepare the divorce papers for him. It sounds like she'll make a very considerate wife, good for you. Congratulations. Well, that's the situation. You all can do as you please now.
Wait.
I felt a chill as my ex-husband clung to the door, trying to keep me from closing it. Michelle. Don't you have any maternal instincts? What do you think this new life coming into the world is? Michelle, if you can't give us alimony, we'll take this house as a birth gift instead. To my desperate ex-husband and former mother-in-law, I said with a broad smile. Congratulations, goodbye. I mercilessly closed and locked the door. I planned to leave it to my lawyer. But it wasn't going to be that easy. After all, these are the kind of people who shamelessly demand someone's house, they won't back down easily. I can ignore further emails filled with resentment from my ex-husband by simply replying, "Please contact my lawyer." However, the real problem is my mother-in-law. She leaves long messages on the voicemail, which are truly annoying. Because of Michelle, I've become a homeless old woman. Could you at least arrange another apartment for me? This house is too cramped and suffocating. When I told my daughter-in-law to do some housework, she just said, "You do it." What am I supposed to do now? I would like to delete these voicemails immediately, but they might be useful, so I decide to save them. Their demands might escalate. They are shamelessly audacious, after all. One day, an unwelcome visitor arrived at my house. Without any prior notice, the doorbell rang, and I gripped my smartphone, wondering if it was my ex-husband or mother-in-law and if I should prepare to call the police. At the door stood a man with a stern look and sharp eyes. I was on guard. He seemed vaguely familiar, but I was sure I didn't know such an intimidating man. Could this be some sort of scam disguised as a door-to-door sale? Who might you be? I'm Smith, the factory manager. Then it hit me. Dorothy's father, the factory manager. That's right, she had mentioned telling Daddy. And there they were, my ex-husband and Dorothy, peeking from behind him, grinning. They brought some tough-looking backup. Daddy, tell her. Sir, please teach her a lesson. The factory manager's lips formed a thin line, his brow furrowed deeply, clearly very angry. I worried he might demand nuisance fees or birth costs. As I was about to resolve to call the police, looking at my smartphone.
This is most regrettable.
What? The factory manager shouted to me.
I am terribly sorry.
Then, he grabbed my ex-husband and Dorothy and forced them to apologize.
Apologize. More.
Okay.
Daddy? Why? This wasn't the plan.
I stared in bewilderment. What on earth was happening?
Don't get it twisted. I brought them here to apologize to you.
What?
I truly apologize. My daughter took your husband and even demanded your house.
Yes, that's correct. My ex-husband and Dorothy began to panic. Daddy, you knew? Yes, I knew. All the things you told me about being deceived and having your home taken, were those all lies? Where did you hear that?
Your mother told me everything.
The factory manager, his face contorted with anger. He explained that the former mother-in-law had attempted to seduce him, saying, "We're family now, let's get along well in many ways. Your daughter stole my son. We should be able to manage just as well. Just buy me an apartment and that'll be fine. Visit whenever you like." Of course, the factory manager politely refused. I was speechless with disgust. To think this woman was my mother-in-law. You always tell convenient stories. I'm disappointed in you and your mother. Oh, come on. I've always been faithful to my wife. Don't joke around. Stop it, Daddy, you're scaring me.
You too.
What?
I've spoiled you too much because you're my precious only daughter. Both of you are no longer needed at my factory. There's a very strict workplace, so go there and start over.
What? The factory manager turned to me after addressing my ex-husband. Can you forgive us now? Yes. Why would you go to such lengths? I hope we can still have a good relationship moving forward. I was completely baffled and stared back him. Then, it dawned on me. Yes, a long time ago, he was the head of the administration department at a company I used to deal with during my sales days. I'm terribly sorry, I didn't recognize you. Now it was my turn to apologize. There's been a merger, and I manage the new plant now. It's understandable you didn't recognize me. I see. I couldn't believe your husband was working at my plant initially. The factory manager looked away, making a troubled face. Has my former husband been causing you trouble? His work attitude is poor, he doesn't learn, and he has unexcused absences. Quite the opposite of his competent wife. Imagining my ex-husband's irresponsible demeanor, I wasn't surprised. As I was no longer his wife, I had neither the need to defend nor apologize for him. All I could do was give a wry smile. I plan to retrain him from scratch. I definitely won't let him near here again. My ex-husband shrank, and Dorothy looked displeased. You were always great at training new recruits, weren't you? Yes, I was quite strict and thorough. I'll be supporting from afar. Even with the factory manager's efforts, reforming my ex-husband seemed unlikely. Ultimately, he must make the effort to change himself. Especially for the sake of the innocent baby on the way. There's one thing I regret. I wanted to correct the misconception that infertility was my fault. We had once gone to the hospital together to check on the cause of our infertility. There was no issue on my part, but my husband was diagnosed with azoospermia. Natural conception wasn't impossible but was said to be difficult. That Dorothy got pregnant from just one slip-up with my ex-husband was either a miracle, they were incredibly compatible, or maybe the child wasn't his daughter. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't matter to me anymore. The factory manager updated me while contacting me about work. He told me that they ended up living in that old, cramped house for a while. They had promised to save for the baby and to seriously try working as part of their future cohabitation conditions, but Dorothy quickly couldn't stand that lifestyle. No surprise there. Stephen probably didn't realize, since I managed our finances, but living on his income alone would be barely feasible, if not impossible. If 3 adults lived freely without saving, the savings I gave him during our divorce would be gone in no time. Dorothy went back to her parents' home after giving birth and never returned. During that time, my ex-husband grew to hate his job and quit. The desperate former mother-in-law started causing trouble, demanding her daughter-in-law and grandchild back, insisting they take care of her, which led to police involvement at the factory manager's home. Pathetic. They're all too selfish. But since I'm no longer involved, I declined further updates. Hang in there, Mr. Smith. My new home is very comfortable. Being alone can be lonely and I worry about what I would do if I got sick, but I've never felt it was good to have a husband at home. Living alone now feels no different than before. I believed that spouses should support each other, but it turned out he was just leaning on me. Having an unnecessary person gone doesn't trouble me at all. 7 years later. My well-settled home now also houses my parents, whom I called from the countryside. And a former colleague from the sales department lives with us too. He was the man who always competed with me for the top sales position. After I moved to the planning department, the competition dwindled, and he mentioned missing seeing my face. The feeling was mutual. After he learned I was divorced, he immediately asked me out, and now he has become a husband I truly trust. We've worked together for many years and can say anything to each other without holding back. A truly ideal man. Here's to many more years together.